Hey everybody, it says welcome to live chat. There's a box on this newest version of YouTube live chat that says welcome to live chat, blah 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 blah. And the reason why I say it like that is because it fades out before you can read the whole doggone thing. YouTube, just let it stay up just a little bit longer, please. Anyway, hey, welcome to Zenny62 Tuesday night. 2 nights before Valentine's Day night. Hope you got that figured out. I decided to call my own audible, and for this reason, there is something that has been burning my soul. Hey, Mel, how you doing? Haven't seen you in a while. And it really hit me in a blog post that I wrote centering around what happened to 19-year-old Abigail. Oh, rather than say her name, I'll just say basically the unfortunate Kent State teenager who was basically out for a good time and happened upon somehow, Kareem Hunt and his merry band of brothers and sisters at a Cleveland hotel called Metropolitan at the 9. And unfortunately, what for her started out as, a foray into a good time, however she defined a good time, ended in her getting beat up. Now, the details are worth repeating as much as I can for what I know, because there are definitely two sides to every story, and that certainly is the case here. First of all, working backward, Kareem Hunt was picked up by the Cleveland Browns in a conditional contract. But secondly, what happened was that 19-year-old Abigail Ottinger, I was really afraid of mispronouncing her last name, Abigail Ottinger, is said to have said something inappropriate to Kareem Hunt and his band of brothers and sisters, particularly him. By the way, congratulations, Rob Iman, on your wedding anniversary. Did I catch that correctly? But I dutifully digress. And what happened was that she called the police, and this happened way back, I believe, in February. She called the police, and the police came. She was upset the hotel staff didn't do anything, claimed the hotel staff referred to her as a shameless hussy, okay? Which is the long version of what they actually called her. Now, my point of bringing this up isn't to cast blame on Kareem Hunt. It's not to cast blame on Miss Ottinger. It is to cast blame on the National Football League. Because between Ray Rice, Tyreek Hill, this incident, and allegedly other incidents involving Mr. Hunt, sadly, all of these have one thing in common. The players are just that. They're NFL players. So I'm saying, wait a minute, how many times do we have to hear about these incidents? How many times? Rob Ivan's getting remarried in June. He wants his second marriage to go much better. I believe he will. That's a segue, folks, to a fan of the YouTube channel who just posted that comment here. Rob, congratulations, man. You're way ahead of me. But back to the point. The NFL must be made to take responsibility for its players, because it quite literally mines for players. If you want to think of them as the modern coal miners, right? In primarily poor black neighborhoods in the South, in the East, and the Midwest. And it does little to revitalize these neighborhoods, if anything. And it does next to nothing in terms of training and growing and teaching and mentoring the young men it brings out of these football minds, if you will, to play a dangerous sport for a short period of time that has long-term impacts. Let's take the case of Mr. Hunt. Why couldn't a person like Abigail be pre-screened? Why did she have to be on a party bus at all? Why couldn't Mr. Hunt have access to a type of club that consists of pre-screened, eligible women who would want to date an athlete? Pre-screened so that they're not, ladies of the evening, they're actually wholesome. And before you scoff at that, you would say, I point out, hey, look, every time you go on Tinder, you swipe left, you swipe right if you're of that age. To do that, that's exactly what you're doing. You're screening out. Tinder screens you. There are a number of people like eHarmony that have even more rigorous screening processes. We have all kinds of screening systems. Why can't the NFL have its own? I'll go a step further than that. Shouldn't we hold the NFL legally liable for what its players do? Let me go a step further beyond that. Considering those problems, and then considering these unpopular relocations and their impact on the cities that the teams are in, Oakland with the Raiders, or were in St. Louis with the Rams, or San Diego with the Chargers, isn't it about time we start asking the question, shouldn't the National Football League be nationalized? Think about it. Nationalized. A nationalized NFL. Now you would say, okay, Zinni, you're saying that the government should own the NFL. Well, no. That's certainly in the few times the idea of nationalizing the NFL has been presented, that has been the idea. That's not my idea, however. I'm simply saying that the National Football League, under my idea, should have congressional oversight. That's all I'm saying. Some of you would argue that it already does, that any senator or congressman can call in NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell on an issue, have a congressional hearing about it. I mean more than that. I mean congressional oversight like there's like TVA style, Tennessee Valley Authority or something like that, okay? That's what I'm talking about. I'm saying a kind of authority that actually results in a certain level of revenue, of investment going to each team, and anytime an owner, you have the same ownership structures, the owners get a percentage of their total base tax, as a tax base. And Rob Iman says you're on the fence. And I understand, Rob, the details, what is it? Not the pudding is in the details. No, it's the devil is in the details, right? Here are the details. And my point is that, how about this? They get a percentage of their total revenue as tax revenue, as federal investment, right? And it comes with, when that is implied, there's also an NFL Office of Oversight for Operations that looks at everything from player safety to player conduct to working conditions, right? Working conditions for the NFL will be all-encompassing. It would not just be what happens on the field. It would also be, things, for example, what happens off the field. Some of you may remember the old stories of the Dallas Cowboys and the White House that they had, because it was allegedly a coke den, all right? Under the NFL oversight policy with Congress, that would be policed and stopped before it became a problem. The house would be converted into a true rec house, drug-free, with doctors, rehabilitation specialists, security specialists to pick up local players who may need a ride in order to escape DUIs. In other words, a true infrastructure that takes care of the player from A to Z. You know, from start to finish, from soup to nuts. Because my contention right now is that the NFL is getting away quite literally with everything but murder, in terms of having players that might act up, but you know, these players are young adults. They are, I mean, in some cases they just turned 20 or 21 or 22, and we expect them to act like 50-plus-year-old grown men. That's unreasonable. That's completely unreasonable. And they're thrown out to the wolves of society with all this money and attention heaped upon them, and no way at all, no way of adequately coping with it, no appropriate defense mechanisms, nothing that, say, Jeff Bezos has. Jeff Bezos is worth hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars, excuse me, $100 billion man. He's not allowed to just sort of go out there anywhere. He's watched. He has his own infrastructure. NFL players should have the same thing, whether they want to or not. It should be, okay, if you come in the training camp, you have, you know, your stipend, your X amount, you have your rules you follow, but the minute you make it on your 53-person roster, game changes. You become part of that protective envelope, that bubble the NFL sets up for you, whether you like it or not. It's the price of being an NFL player. But it's a great price, you know? It's a great price. It keeps you safe, it keeps you protected, it keeps you out of trouble, it keeps trouble away from you. And then for the team itself, it causes the team to be a responsible community player. The players during the offseason have assignments in their city. The owners of the team are assigned different talking areas, different speaking engagements, so they become more part of the community. You can't just slough off and not take upon yourself to have your responsibility. Okay? Rob Iman says, he thinks the NFL needs a developmental league. I think the NFL needs to be nationalized myself, in the way that I'm talking about. I don't mean where the government just owns it. That's simplistic. I'm talking about a specific way of having government oversight that also stops such things as these willy-nilly owners enriching themselves relocations. It would mean also, think about this, a great raison d'etre for new stadium construction and financing in many different cities. So guess what? Cities and regions benefit by having government oversight and financing by getting new stadiums and all other ancillary functions around that stadium. It's pretty cool, huh? Pretty cool, all right? So Rob Altman says, if NFL were nationalized, so should MLB. I have no issue with that. But you would say, why point at the NFL? Because of the problems that we're seeing. Because it just seems like right now, things are dicey in that way. Yeah, John Akala, when I talked about the matter of the Raiders last time, I did say that my speculation was that they'd met already, but Scott wasn't exactly giving me all the information. And then we find out today, yeah, they did actually meet, but but here's my point. All that aside, I'm going to tell you something, because I've said it before. I said it last week, and I'll say it now. Every time I don't hear, let's gauge, help me out with this, folks, now, all right? Now I'm talking about the Raiders. Every time I don't hear or get a return outreach from Scott, like last Thursday, it means they met. So I didn't get one from Scott last Thursday, and guess what? They met, okay? I didn't get one today, so I'm believing that they met. The Raiders, okay? So I keep pounding that rock of information, trying to figure out what's happening. And I know that there are others that they're pounding it the same way. And like I said the other night, it's all this, well, you know, we're on the same page. We all need to share the same information. I don't get any information from those guys. Raj Matai has not given me information. I haven't heard anything from Larry Beal. So nothing has really changed. You know what I'm saying? Just put that out there, okay? Nothing has really changed. All right. So Miguel says, basically NFL that abides by federal law. I think it should be, because arguably the NFL does abide by federal law, but I think it should be federal control. Well, oversight. I think it should be oversight, true oversight. Because then the owners would be accountable to the government to be great community servants and great community players. And my argument is that in some quarters within the league, and I'm not going to mention names, that's not, well, I am. I'm not going to mention names. I am. Because arguably the Raiders have not been a great community player to Oakland. The Rams have not been a great community player to St. Louis. The Chargers have not been a great community player to San Diego. Okay? Care to throw any other organizations? And that's from the team relocation standpoint. And then, of course, there's the player conduct standpoint. And look at the way Colin Kaepernick is treated. All right? As an example. Say what you will about Kaepernick, you cannot deny that as a quarterback, he has not been given his due. Just because he dared stand up, get this, stand up for black folks who've been killed by police. Okay? So here's an NFL man, Colin Kaepernick, doing the right thing, taking a stand for the community from which he, to a degree, came. Shouldn't the NFL itself be doing that? Now, someone with the league would argue, well, that's what we're doing now with our new player initiatives. Right, but they're new. And they only go so far. They go further. Okay? And then, of course, we talk about concussions and CTE and the slow pace of improvement in the technical design, excuse me, of uniforms, all right? So now I'll get to your questions. Cowboy Wrestler says, John Akala, I personally think a deal will be reached by the end of the week. The NFL is losing patience every passing day. Cowboy Wrestler then says, is the Premier League nationalized in the UK? You know, I don't know that. And I wasn't thinking of a certain model around that. This is just my own idea. John Akala says, good sign that the Raiders are now focused on Oakland. I read that before. And I read these other comments. And Rob Iman says, San Diego would support the Chargers if the Spanos family were able to sell the team. Rob Iman says, NBA is light years ahead of the NFL in terms of social justice. I agree, because the NBA is more sensitive to the fact that it has mostly black players and an active black fan base. I mean, let's just lay this out on the table for what it is, okay? And that's what it is. But what bothers me is that the league does not provide, if a player gets in trouble, you don't have this book, like this series of talking points for the player. And now you don't have this series of guidelines for the player, okay? That has to do with, that says, okay, call so-and-so if you're in trouble. Or here's an app, specially designed for NFL players. Push this button when you're in trouble. You know? That sort of thing. Because I don't care what anyone says about Abigail Altinger. You do not hit a woman, all right? You do not hit a woman. Cowboy Wrestler just put it very well. He said the NFL is still run by good old boys who are so out of touch with society. But here's the kicker. Those good old boys you say are out of touch with society impact society. You can't have an entertainment organization worth $5 billion or $2.5 billion directly, and then indirectly command multi-billion-dollar television contracts, eyeballs that are drawn in to watch the product. All that has an impact on our society. All right? So these aren't, in my view, these are not good old boys who are out of touch with society. These are good old boys who have some control over society. More importantly, more appropriately, influence over society. And so because they have influence over society and how we tend to think about, frankly speaking, the development of young black men and where the NFL gets its players from, and the chronic underdevelopment problems in many of those neighborhoods, and the NFL's reticence to do anything about it, it's time we nationalize the league to provide the perfect tool to do something about that, okay? That's all I'm saying. When I say nationalize, Rob Iman says, I'm glad Jed York dares to be a progressive as an NFL owner. Jed York is a very progressive NFL owner. My idea is not anti-NFL owner. In fact, I argue NFL owners could get even richer from this. That's right, even richer. So it's not a matter of taking the wealth away. So when one hears nationalize, you think, oh, he wants to throw in socialism and da-da-da-da. No, I don't. The dirty fact of American society is that we have a mixed economy. Some aspects of it are capitalist, some aspects of it are socialist, but the reality is there's nothing that's really purely anything. When you get out and you drive your car, you do so on roads that are open or they're owned by the local governments. You drive on a freeway that's owned by the federal government. You drive on some local roads that are owned by the federal government. Okay? When you get on a plane, of course, you know you're flying on something that's government, that has government oversight. In fact, the FAA provides, I think the perfect example of what I'm thinking about. You know, the aircraft privately made, the airline's private, but there's government oversight. Something like that, all right? Rob Iman says, I'm glad I got that one. Miguel says, that will change the income if all the participating workers and their positions on the sidelines, ball carriers and field management, and under this, you still have things like cheerleaders, but your cheerleaders would be better paid. You know, instead of making like what? Would they make 150, maybe 1,500, 150 a game or some low thing? Maybe they actually make something reasonable, like $5,000 a game, you know? Something where 5 times 8 is 40. That's $40,000 for a year for a job that's not full-time, okay? And you can do other things. So something like that. Or maybe, 5,000, 5 times 8 is 40. Right, that's how that works out. And then in the playoffs, you get even more money. That wouldn't be bad. You say a little bit more? Okay, say 8,000. 8 times 8, 64. Okay, fine. $64,000 a year. That's even better. Okay? That's even better, right? So they get $8,000 a game per cheerleader for performance. That's actually pretty good. That's actually really good. Considering the total amount of time out of the year, the other opportunities and everything else. If you're going to have this large a percentage of the population watching the NFL, why not have it nationalized? Why not? Why not? Cowboy versus Rob Iman, Jed York is the one exception of, that's why I've always admired the 49ers organization going back to the days of Eddie DeBartolo. Jed York but you're gonna be shocked when I say this, but I'll throw in Jerry Jones and I'll throw in Mark Davis. Now, you would say, what? And I would say, yeah. Look, it's very easy to not think of either of these gentlemen as progressive because of the relocation issue, or Jerry Jones because of his relationship with Donald Trump, all right? But my argument is that with respect to, and this is where Jerry Jones comes in, with respect to mentorship of African-American players who become great entrepreneurs, like look at Drew Pearson, okay, as one example. Look at Emmitt Smith as another, all right? I believe that Jerry Jones is unparalleled. And I also say this from personal experience. I may criticize from time to time what Jones does, but I like Jerry Jones as a person, okay? I can separate this thing and that thing from the total person. And I mean this thing, I mean the whole encouraging the relocation and then setting up the deal where he's finding the sponsorships for the Raiders that he basically encouraged to relocate and got the Raiders to relocate from Oakland to Las Vegas, or in the process of doing that, all right? That part I didn't like, but, you know, do I like him as a person? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Do I like that Mark Davis takes an attitude regarding the whole anthem story that really is surprisingly progressive to a lot of people? Of course. All right. All right. Hey, Barry Lee, how you doing, man? Great to see you. How you doing? Hey, by the way, Louisville up 23 points over Duke with, I think, what, 9 minutes to go? FYI, all right? John Akala says, would you be surprised if a deal was reached this week, being that the NFL is losing its patience by the day? No. I'll tell you what would surprise me. What would surprise me is if a deal were reached to send the Raiders overseas or something weird. That would surprise me, given the gigantic significance the Oakland Coliseum has in the total history of the National Football League. We're talking NFL 100, folks. How can you not see that handwriting on the wall? This is NFL 100. The NFL should be at the Oakland Coliseum for its 100th season. You'd have to be a freaking bozo not to see that. The Raiders should be at the Coliseum. They should stop playing games, sign the doggone thing, and move forward. They're going to save $18 million being at the Coliseum versus Levi Stadium. This whole thing is stupid. It's ridiculous. Mark should just sign the deal, get on with it, and stop this nonsense. That's what I say. All right? Tired of this crap. All right? Rob Ivan says, Jerry Jones is the NFL equivalent of George Steinbrenner. True. True. How's your health, Barry? So, hey. So, I'm going to take a poll now. Pedro, how you doing? All right. If you think the NFL should be nationalized, or let me put it this way. If you think congressional hearings should be held to nationalize the NFL, regardless of where the hearings go, give me a why. Or if you don't think so, give me a no, okay? So I just want to see the preliminary, because this is where this goes, because why, all right? We got 2 yeses. Barry Lee says, I have to admit it. It looks like the AAF will make it. Alamo Dome was awesome. Did you go to the game? So basically you have 3 Ys. Barry, what's your vote? We have 3 Ys, 3 yeses. Miguel, myself, and Cowboy Wrestler say yes. That's 3 people voting out of 24. There's a 4th. That's, so far it's 4-0. Anybody else? Rob Iman abstains. Okay, so we have 4-0-1. All right, and Barry Lee is officially jumping on the Commanders bandwagon. So we have 4-0-1. With Rob Iman abstaining. So I will say, well, it looks like it's, since the rest of you are just watching and not chiming in, probably think I have your IP addresses and I know where you live and I know who you really are. Just kidding. Anyway, you're probably saying, okay. But, unless you just, or maybe you've just tuned in, you don't know. If you favor congressional review for the possibility of nationalizing the NFL, say yes. Otherwise, no. So far, there's 4 yeses, no nos, and 1 abstention. What say you? Yes, no, or abstain? You have not voted yet. What say you? Yes, no, or abstain? How about you, Pedro? Pedro Gallardo, what do you say? Yes, no, or abstain? We have 2 that have dropped. Yes, no, or abstain? What do you say? We have 2 that have dropped. I mean, out of sight entirely, okay? Yes, no, or abstain? Ed Reed says, hey, Zen, I think the Raiders will be back in Oakland with 8 years. But Ed Reed, what's your vote on NFL nationalization? Yes? Hearings. Hearings. What's your vote on NFL nationalization hearings? Yes, no, or abstain? John Akala says yes. That's 5, 0, and 1. Ed Reed, what do you say? I know you're not really Ed Reed, but nonetheless, what do you say? He's yes. That's 6, 0, and wow, this is surprisingly surprising. Surprising. So we have another person just dropped. Those must be city executives. And Pena says, do you happen to know any updates regarding the Howard Terminal ballpark? I know that there is the talk regarding the gondola that's supposed to basically stretch over what appears to be Washington Street in Oakland and go down to Howard Terminal. I am not in favor of that, and I'll tell you why. The reason I'm not in favor of it, have you seen the video? I'm going to do another show on that one because I'm going to make this one short. I'm not going to be on here much longer because I was on a long time last night, but I want to do more shows, but you know, go back to doing more shows on a daily basis, but making them a bit shorter. But I digress. Look, the whole purpose of a ballpark is to attract people, right? To see baseball, okay? But in getting them there, why not? Oh, hey, the Real Noriega says yes. Thank you. That's 7 yeses, all right? Now, back to my point, all right? Back to my point. Well, Gavin's not shutting down high-speed rail, but I'll get to that in another second. Back to my point. I want people who come to the ballpark to go through the neighborhood, stop and get a bite to eat, fraternize with people, that sort of thing. That's what I want. Pedro says, I just got on. Hey, how you doing, Pedro? He says, what would be the benefit from nationalizing? I don't want to say yes because everyone is. Gotcha. Okay, that's a great question. Under my idea of calling for a nationalization hearing, there would be the idea would be an oversight. Say the federal sports commission, all right, and the federal sports commission, the FSC, the Federal Sports Commission, would provide a stipend to each NFL team. We'll have oversight over NFL off-season activities. It would set up a way to make sure that players have alternative places to go to do entertainment, that they have a separate society of their own, where if they're single and dating, the women who would want to date them are pre-screened. They have private ways of contacting them. They have their own clubs. They have their own world, okay? And then the organizations themselves, when it comes to, say, for example, relocation, you have to make a greater case for relocation. In fact, more often than not, if you say we have a facility problem, then it's the Federal Sports Commission's responsibility to improve the stadium, build the new stadium in the city that it's in, and then also make sure that there's a plan for infrastructure improvement that includes not just the stadium, but also the roadways and other surrounding parts of the local environment that are impacted by the stadium. And then it sets the basically, this idea of a federal sports commission serves as a way of both protecting the NFL's key investment, which is its players, and also making certain that it better invests in the community, represents the community, and takes care of the community. All right, that's the idea. So maybe nationalizing is a bit too strong of a term. I'm not saying that the Federal Sports Commission would own the NFL teams outright, but be a lot like the relationship that the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, has with the airlines. Okay, it would be very much like that. And yes, under that rubric, each team would receive a subsidy. Okay, the commissioner would still be in place. The NFL structure would still be in place, but it would be augmented. It would be like putting on a type of suit. All right, that's the idea. We would, under this structure, we would hear far less, if anything, about incidents like the ones that just seem to happen all the time, these domestic violence incidents and everything. No. Because you wouldn't have these players going out and imbibing and getting drunk and everything irresponsibly. You know, all that irresponsible behavior would be either not done or compartmentalized appropriately out of the public eye, so the player has a fighting chance of getting the proper rehabilitation, both of himself and his image, before his image is wrecked by society. All right? That's what I'm talking about. See, that's the idea, okay? That's the idea. All right, so Pedro, I hope that answers your question. Cowboy Rusher says, Z, I heard if things don't pan out in Oakland, the A's might consider moving to Sacramento. I think it's highly unlikely. I don't know who's coming up with that garbage. The A's have too much of a sunk investment in Oakland. Cowboy, and not only that, look, we're going into 2023. So we're coming to a point very close where the A's will start groundbreaking for that new stadium. I don't know why there are people who are just wishing that this thing wouldn't happen. I want it to happen. I'm not a fan of the gondola, no, but I am a huge fan of the Jewel Box at Howard Terminal. I simply believe that people should be made to move through the neighborhood and spend their money rather than flying over it elitist fashion to that facility. No, I think it's an awful idea. I think that is socially and urban planningly irresponsible. Yeah, I made up a new word. Okay? I don't like that at all. I think it stinks. Absolutely stinks. And I'm going to give the A's a piece of my mind tomorrow. And so, Rob Ivan says that phase is in the works. Which one? Cowboy Wrestler says something about, isn't there another being built between Bakersfield and Fresno? Oh, anyway. Anthony Teal, how you doing, Anthony? Says, yes, this is needed. Tired of these teams holding the city hostage. Ding! John Acala says, who do you think the Raiders should draft with the 4th overall pick? Okay. Dwayne Haskins. You asked me. But I believe, look, I think it is time to you know, every time I say that, I feel my heart goes out to Derek Carr, because it's not an anti-Derek Carr thing. But Cowboy Rush says Nick Bosa. But I say Haskins because, look, the last time the Raiders drafted a quarterback high that could start was, well, Derek Carr. All right? And we're going into 2019, and it's about that time when the Raiders have to start thinking about grooming a new signal caller. Bill Walsh said it best. This is, You don't get married to, and he did this with Joe Montana, all right? You don't hang on to a player until players' wheels are ready to fall off. I mean, of course, there's Tom Brady. The Walsh way is, hey, you know what? You start getting ready the next generation. And I'm not high on Kyler Murray at all. Not for the Raiders. I'm not high. No. Cowboy Rest says that Derek Carr will not be the starting quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders. The way things are going by 2001, I am inclined to say that's a possibility. I'm not wanting to count out Derek Carr. This is very difficult for me to say because I think Derek Carr is a fine Christian man, all right? And that is my motivation for having such difficulty making the statement that I am making. I believe that Derek Carr, in addition to what I have just said, has been done an amazing disservice by the Raiders, consistently changing, for the most part, offensive directors. Do you realize this is the first year that Derek Carr will have the same offensive coordinator, in consecutive years, right? Because came in, well, actually maybe the second year, because we had Musgrave for consecutive years, all right? And, yeah. So, because Derek Carr became the starter, and then 2015, right? And so Musgrave, 2015, Carr became the starter with that offense, and then he excels in 2016. They changed offensive coordinators in 2017 to Todd Downing, and had that disaster year. And then last year, of course, they brought in Gruden. So this will be the second year in Derek Carr's career that he has had the same offensive coordinator from one season to the next. In total, what Derek Carr has only known is instability. And so to expect him to grow under those circumstances is completely ridiculous. Completely ridiculous. So we have a balancing act. You have, all right, you have a situation where the Raiders really need to think about that next quarterback that, it's going to take them to Vegas. And then they've got to pay, they paid $20 million to Carr. It doesn't mean that you just ignore getting a talented signal caller just because the time is right to get one. Now, Anthony says, is the Buffalo quarterback better than Hans? Yeah, I think Tyree Jackson is, okay? So you asked me, you know what? You asked me what I was going to do with the fourth pick, and that came out as high as I am on Tyree Jackson. Now, so I would say, but the reason why I was thinking of Haskins is because of his poise in the pocket. But Tyree Jackson is another world. He is a player. He is an otherworld player. He is an otherworldly player. Okay. He is a taller Patrick Mahomes, and so you know what? I'm gonna amend my comment. I'll take Tyree Jackson with 4. I won't take Haskins. Juan Ramirez, how you doing? Great to see you. I'm going to do this to my own head and say no. But I do think that Haskins has great value, such that he and Jackson should be considered, pros and cons. But all right, I'll put Tyree Jackson, scale of 1 to 10. Haskins is a 7, Jackson is an 8. All right? 8.5. 8.5, all right? Kyler Murray is a 5, okay? Amir Hall is a 6 to 7. I haven't seen enough of Amir Hall at the higher level, but when I think of Amir Hall out of Bowie State, black quarterback out of black college, Bowie State, I think of next Doug Williams, but I think that's unfair because Amir Hall can read differences better at his level than Doug Williams could coming out Grambling, okay? So, and I'm not saying Doug couldn't read them, but Amir Hall is just an excellent thrower. an excellent passer, an excellent reader of defense. He's a he has a great pocket presence if you haven't seen him before. Gotta see him. He was at Amir Hall, the East-West. He got one play. They threw him for one play. They tried to pull that stuff with Tyree Jackson. He said, boom, touchdown. Boom, 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 boom. Wound up throwing for more yards than anybody else. It was hilarious. They had Drew Lock on the sidelines on the NFL Network telecast, asking Drew these questions, and Damian Jones from Duke. And all of a sudden, it's this commotion in the background because Tyree Jackson is tearing up the field. That was hilarious. So yeah, I'm higher. I like Tyree Jackson. Ed Reed says Gruden won't draft a black quarterback. This is what he's writing here. I'm not just saying this, folks. This is what he's writing. He's saying, Ed Reed, Gruden won't draft an Afro quarterback. He means black. His last Afro quarterback was Josh Johnson in Oakland. He had Hackenberg on his first round board, who he traded and cut E.J. Manuel. Yeah, I don't understand that. I remember I asked him, I thought that John was going to bring Josh Johnson in to install some sort of read-option system. And he kind of said, playfully, yeah. But he didn't even keep him. And you're right. When it comes to black quarterbacks, John Gruden seems to have this revolving door. And I'm going to ask him, if I have the opportunity, hey, do you have a misgiving about, I said, I want to know. And I want to be wrong. Do you have a misgiving about coaching black quarterbacks? Can you give us an example of black quarterbacks that you've coached to success? Is there something in you that doesn't see a black quarterback as a person that can be as successful as his white counterpart? It's a hard question, but hey, put it out there, okay? All right. Mom Ramirez, it's a blessing to see you here, and my condolences on your cousin, okay? Was your cousin, I think it was? Juan asks, what changes would you like to see on the offensive line? Wider line splits and a greater use of punch blocking off the line of scrimmage, and that can only be done effectively with more quick passes. I can't remember a time when I saw the Raiders just have one step, throw, one step, throw, one step, throw, okay? Juan Ramirez said he lost an uncle and a cousin within 3 days apart. My sympathies, not good at all. Now, those are the changes I want to see. I want to see changes in technique. Someone out there asked me about, or mentioned Cliff Kingsbury. I'm really excited to see, and I hope he does use pure air raid offense. Let me tell you something about the air raid, folks. It's just Sid Gilman returning to the NFL all over again. And what I mean by that, I mean deep drops by the quarterback, long stretch the field patterns, combination routes, high, middle, and low, mesh crossing patterns, and in general, consistent pass-first pressure on the defense. That's the air raid. But you would say, wait a minute, the NFL does a lot of that already, and you would be correct. However, there is an adjustment. The NFL, for the most part, has been ruled by the Bill Walsh offense, what people call the West Coast offense. 3, 5, 7-step drops from under center, throwing with or without what's called a hitch step. Much attention paid to footwork and accurate passing based on timing to a point of cuts here and there, depending on the play and the type of pattern and pass play call. Precision passing. The air raid system is less based on precision passing, and it's less precision passing and more distance passing, more pressure passing from a standpoint of formations and depth and style. Because within the air raid, as it's played, is something called vertical set blocking. Now, what is vertical set blocking? It means the linemen always stand up, they never sit down, and they block with their feet. They move 1 yard back. They start 1 yard back, then they move back on what's called their anchor foot. If you're, say, the left tackle, you move back, your ankle foot is on the outside left. You lock yourself in position there, and you put out and you push out here, and you make sure that the rusher is forced out in this direction. If it comes inside, you push up, okay? It's, as it was explained to me by Jake Matthews when he was coming into the league, because I have an interview with him, it's essentially simple and very effective. Now, Sonny Dykes made some adjustments to it to run block. I want to see what Cliff Kingsbury does with the air raid at the NFL level. They're idiots who are saying it can't work. You know what? Anybody who says that has zero idea what they're talking about. It might as well just say, oh, well, you know, there was no such thing as the Air Coryell offense or Sid Gilman and what he did, or Lavelle Edwards at BYU and what he did. Forget all that, all right? Let me get back to your comments. Let's see here. John Acosta says, everybody that's saying Raiders are moving to Vegas in 2020 is going to get the message that they're not when they sign a 2-year lease extension. You know, this rush is really hilarious. The Raiders are moving, of course, but they're not going to be able to play a full NFL season there. All right? It's just not going to happen. And I'm not saying it's a wish fulfillment. It's just the way the thing is going. Okay? I'm only looking at what's happening and saying, hey, folks, the stadium is not going to rush for you. You got a 3-month move-in date. You finish in August, you got 3 months to move in. All right? Pedro says, did Josh Johnson even play a preseason game? No, he just got rid of him. And I want to see him run too. Ed Reed says, Mr. Gruden past practices speaks for itself when it comes to black quarterbacks. Dave Neal, how you doing? Dave says, Oakland needs an Alliance of American football team next year. I agree. Cowboy Rush says, Rosen's going to be slinging that football this season. He is. It's going to be fun, man. That's actually worth going to Cardinals training camp just to get that, you know. Something else, too. Everyone says, well, Cliff Kingsbury was brought in because of the whole Sean McVay thing, and he's the genius and everything, right? Every time you think of Cliff Kingsbury, think of Kevin Sumlin, who's in Arizona. Why? Because it's Cliff Kingsbury who will tell you he learned his football. He learned the air raid from Kevin Sumlin when he worked for Kevin Sumlin at A&M. It was Kingsbury and Sumlin that developed Johnny Manziel, okay? But it was Sumlin's system. And Kingsbury is quoted as saying that and has never walked away from that fact. I think I said in one of these broadcasts that Kevin Sumlin should make a great coach for the Raiders. Never happened. But why? Because the air raid system basically is, well, kind of a Raider-esque passing system. Classically so. All right. Anthony Teal says, what do you think the wide receiver Metcalf? Can he replace Cooper? No. And I don't think anybody can replace Amari Cooper. Having said that, I don't believe... I'm still stuck on the fact that I told Reggie McKenzie last year at the NFL annual meeting to draft Courtland Sutton. Instead, the Broncos took him, and Courtland Sutton had a great first outing, as I said he would have. All right? Courtland Sutton, I said Courtland Sutton is an NFL Hall of Fame player, and I said that before he was drafted. I said that, okay? All right? That's exactly what I said. I said, hey, I said that. I'm documented. I'm on record as mouthing off like that, okay? All right? That's exactly what I said. Courtland Sutton should be an Oakland Raiders player. I mean, that he is not, I think, is a crime. that you know, we took Miller in there. Then there were other people like my buddy Rick Serra tell us he's a second-day player. No, he's a first-day player. I kept saying, Ricky's a first-day player. Well, I'll check him out because, you know, it's you, Zenny. I appreciate that. He's a good friend. He's a good man. But I was right! Ugh. It sucks being right all the time. All right. So that's what I say. Dave Neal says, or whatever the Raiders leave, Oakland has good fans. I think the AAF would be successful there. Edward Reed says, Edward Reed agrees with you, Dave. Edward Reed also says Vegas will backfire. Watch. Cowboy Rusher says Edward Reed. Chris Sims couldn't stand Gruden during his time at Tampa Bay. Yeah, I remember that. Robert Mira says, I would like to see a greater use of the fullback and tight ends. Stretching the field has been non-existent for years. I like stretching the field by formation. But something else I want to see Gruden do is I want to see a more adjustable system with respect to being able to switch from run to pass. If you see that you've got no middle linebacker, you're facing a defense that has no middle linebacker, my middle linebacker is gone, at least have a provision where either you can run up the gut, pick up maybe 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 yards, or you can send a running back up the gut, or you can send your tight end over the middle. Some way of attacking that, regardless of the passing set or, you know, switching over. You have to be able to take advantage of that. Gruden last year didn't have that. It was agonizing to watch because he could have eaten the Rams alive in the first half had he done that. Okay. Yeah, the whole road construction Vegas thing has been pushed back. Cowboy Wrestler says the NFC West is probably going to be the best division. Sean Watson says, what do you think is going to happen with Marshawn? I think Marshawn... Well, let's see how Marshawn responds from his injury. I'm not ready to count him out because I think that Marshawn Lynch is a fantastic presence for the Oakland Raiders in terms of the Raider image. And here's my point. You keep the Raiders in Oakland for NFL 100, have Marshawn as an integral part of the team, all right? That spirit that gets you lit up, right? That fire plug that gets everybody, you know, just going, and figure out ways to get him out there so he keeps the team ignited. Yeah, they bottle that up. Juan Ramirez says, it was on the Las Vegas Review-Journal a couple of days ago. What was? Oh, I saw that. Yeah, the whole matter of the road construction being pushed back, yeah. Tom Kohler, how you doing? Tom says, Las Vegas Stadium is way behind schedule. What are you hearing, by the way? Lisette, welcome back. Lisette says, will you be attending this year's draft? Yes, that is my plan. I'm always mindful because of my mom, even though she hates when I say that, but that's my responsibility, okay? So, Dave Neal says, I wish the NFL would spread the hash marks out more. No. So offenses could take advantage of more space. No. No. The reason why they were brought in was to give more space. In the 60s, the hash marks were actually out wider, and they brought them in more during the 70s to open up the game. So no, not at all. Not at all. If anything, I want to see the hash marks in college brought in to NFL place. Because think about it, you know, you've got, if you bring in the hash marks, or bring out the hash marks, you have a wide side of the field, yeah, but you've got a narrow side of the field. Forget it. I want sides of the field that are more equal than not, so you have a greater degree of unpredictability regarding the passing game, and it's more fun. So I completely disagree. I completely disagree. All right, folks, it is 1:01, and I've been on for 59 minutes, 50 seconds, going into, which is what I want to do, going into an hour. I'll see everybody tomorrow night. No special guests. I said the night before I was going to have a special guest. I haven't lined up anybody. You all are the special guests. You're all my every night special guests, and I want to thank you so very much. back tomorrow. Anthony Teal says, is Josh Allen worth the hype he's getting? I think in this offense he will be. All right. We'll talk more about it tomorrow, folks. Good night. And please, if you have not done so, subscribe to Zenny62 on YouTube. Yeah, looking forward to more draft talk. You know what? And we'll talk about that NFL Combine list.